my normal way of doing some of these pools, trying to find something we mapped that had a good range. It's really those DLMM pools. If I'm not trading, I tend to go do that. I'm at the whim of the market. I think we all are. So there's some days where are really good and have a lot of volatility and movement, but when that goes away, and we're just kind of range bound, I really try to get into the pools, kind of those DLMM pools. I've been keeping track of some stuff and trying to see how to make sure you're actually making gains from it too. Because sometimes if the price goes down, of course, that's your biggest risk on those pools. So I like to churn out the volume and make money off of that volume or range bound side of things when we're not going up and down a lot, and vice versa. If we're just moving up and down, then I'm going to probably be jumping into trades a lot more. Let's see. And it's following volume too. So certain times I find that if I want to make following the money is pretty much the word for it. And right now, what is generating money? And if I want to go to the DLM pools, we all know that Kira's awesome. We love it, but not everyone's into it right now. And it's just not like this pool, it's just not doing the same percentage. It's at like 0.3, 0.4% in 24 hours on average for the pools. I know mine is something similar. And what is that? It's just not really something that's going to generate you a lot of fun income. That's okay.
Yeah, that's not very enticing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, all right. So we learned a bit how to set them up and how to get going. So I think, and even what I'm learning too, is how do you find a profitable one? And I know Striker is also sometimes in the chat and really good to hit up about that stuff too. But what was I was doing this one recently. This is the pups. I guess I'll start back what I was saying. You're gonna want to look for total value locked and 24-hour volume, and each of those numbers are cool, and one large number doesn't represent a lot of something. It's the total value locked in relation to the 24-hour volume it's doing. If the 24-hour volume is a lot larger than the value locked, that's a good sign. It just means that there's more volume than the value itself. Now this one's a big ass, this big ass pools, and they have the super low fees. That's all right, and you can see on average what they generate, and it takes some scrolling. You see the 1.75. It has a low amount of total value locked and a $2 million in volume, but it's only making 0.04% fee in a 5 bin step. So when you look at it, so there's the step between each bin is 5, and the total number of bins is 69. And I don't know if people were kind of confused maybe how it works, but if you do the equal pool setup and just a straight spot, boom, equal balance, you can see the price moves back and forth. When it trades your SOL for USDC and then vice versa, the USDC for SOL. And what happens is you'll notice this is very tight, 175 to 169. So you'll have to rebalance often, but it's super concentrated. So that's how a low amount of liquidity can get a lot more volume. Like, damn, like 53K can push out a daily of 2 million. But you have people that are on it that are constantly rerouting, making sure they're within this little, let's follow it, 69. And that's why I always like to draw these pools out too on my charts. I'm pretty visual, so you also are reliant on the price you're in currently. So you can't just make up a random bin range. You have to be in that zone. So 125. Yeah, 126 there. Then, so this pool range on a low bin, this is a 5 bin step. So the lowest DLM you could get is about a 3% range. So this is really cool. If you want to churn out a bit more, you can do that. You just got to make sure it's making a lot of volume. And that 1%, almost 2% a day, that's awesome. But it has to be here. Like, let's see what the 1 day. Like, let's go to 1 day. That's cool. See, you want to capture the wick. You want to make sure on this single day to get 1.74, you have to be within range to churn that out. So now
a lot of goddamn work for 2%.
Yeah.
Shit. So
Yeah,
you have to
it
keep
is.
readjusting this as if the price exits that zone on Solana, then what do you do? What do you have to do to your pool? You have to remove your liquidity or something.
So it goes up a little bit, and so the price kind of, oh no, it goes up. All right, the best way I like to look at it too for following and tracking, it's good to have spot. You've maybe bought lower, so hey, if you had Sol at 20 and it's up here now, it's a lot more fun to do liquidity. That's why Cura's fun, because it's worth a whole lot more than when I earned it or bought it. Like, it was up 20 or 10x. So giving liquidity is a little more easy in my perception, but I like using that with stuff I can, I'm okay with doing and messing with to make more Cura. But the big thing I like to do just for math is coming in with, say, $1,000 or $100 or whatever, buying spot where you think it's going to be range bound, and then from there, if it goes up, you'll make the profits as it sells, and then you'll have to make a new. Yes, you'll have to rebuy because you'll exit this with only USDC, and then you could rebuy here and then rebalance. So you buy more Sol so you can provide the liquidity so it could be sold here again. But if you keep doing that and then the price suddenly drops, you have to hope that your fees are now offsetting that dip. So it's a little complex in that, but this is an example of a tight pool range. This is the smallest one it could go to, right? And the explanation there is, just so you guys can make strategies, is each one of these bins is very, very close. So it's pretty much having each line is getting sold, like a sell here, a sell here, a sell here, a sell here. And it's putting like a certain amount of Sol or whatever asset is in there to be sold. But the bins are tighter, they're closer, and a lot more of them. If we back it up, so that's why it's able to churn so much volume. If you go back, what was it, Sol USDC, yeah. That was the smallest, that's like or I guess you could go smaller, 2 bin step. But we'll go to something bigger so you can see that it's not all. Let's see a decent performing one though. 1 bin step. 1.5, 0.6, yeah. All the ones that make a bunch more are obviously the tighter, more very focal pointed liquidity, but it's the 80. Let's just go to 100. But you can see it's making 0.02%, so let's ignore that for a second just to show you the range besides its use case. So this one has a top range of 233. Yeah, all the way up here, like let's say, even higher, 236, and a low of 126. So you could do that little small bin right through here and churn out and hope, like, try to capture the wick. That's, if you could capture that 1 day wick, you've captured like most of that day's volume. And if you're in such a constrained pool, you have so many bin steps that you're catching so much more fees that way. Of course, the risk to that is your tight range needs to be rebalanced a lot. Now, rebalancing is okay if price continuously goes up. You know, it goes up, you catch another wick. It goes up, you catch another wick. It goes up, you catch another. Cool. Awesome. You're making fees, and the value of all this is going higher and higher. That's awesome. But where it gets weird is when you're doing that and rebalancing, and then it dips down to 50 after you just rebalanced at 84. Then you'll see a significant dip in that. And that's where sometimes it's good to, when people pull liquidity and just sell your stuff like you're spot buying, you know, or like you're playing a sell and buying and selling. So sometimes a little different when I'm doing Kira, but because we always use Kira with the pools lately, but if it's on something like this or some meme coin, I will see it like, oops, this is looking weak. I'm gonna pull liquidity on the pool, sell it here, and then try and catch it when it's doing that kind of movement, like kind of these consolidating movements here. That's when I try to get in on that. And then kind of taking that idea. Sol's boring, at least with these pools. It's consistent and easy, and you're holding Sol, and you know, cool. That's another way to make some extra off of that. One I've been doing recently is the pups, because for me, what do I do now that now Meteora has opened up the DLMM pools to be it's kind of like a soft opening for people to make their own. It's only a 69 bin. There's larger amount of bins, but they limit you to 69. But anyone can make it for any coin pairs. That's really awesome. So now that means lately how I've been trying to shift my gears into making the most out of capital when I'm not really having fun trading. And I don't want to trade shit coins, but I do want to make money off of the volume of everyone trading. That's people are just buying and selling with slippage. They don't give a shit. They're just like entering with, they're just maxing out their slippage just to get in on something. And that's where liquidity providers could come in. You can also get wrecked too, just like you could get wrecked buying shit coins. But ones that are doing decent, and I feel like I didn't get a good entry on, and I'm always sidelining myself on, and I'm actually really stoked I got on. Let's see what I was doing. Yeah, I was starting a pool, so this is looks like it busted out of my pool range here. I started it here, and I spot purchased a lot of pups to be sold on the way up, and it had some fun through there, and I made some fees on the way up and out. So I saw some bullish movement when it was consolidated here, and the whole idea was kind of to that's what my bad. That's what the bottom line was for. You could DCA in with the bottom one-sided just USDC, and you could pull out of that pool once it's done and kind of going up. I didn't, so it just kind of cleared that pool out. So it went down, it sold all my USDC for pups, and then it bought back in, and it went out there. Then I think somewhere around here I had made a new range, and I rebalanced, purchased back in, and then made that kind of the fees off of that using I like usually the 80 bin step or the 100 bin step, so usually really nice. But this one makes you 12% a day on the gains of what went through. Now I didn't catch all that, and I could probably try and look into this, but for me, my situation is fine because it busted through there, and I'm out with only USDC, and I kind of that was pretty dope. Didn't expect it to go through there. I thought maybe we would bounce around more through here, but that was one way to capture some kind of movement. And again, how would I find the range? Now this is where I probably could do something a bit more TA heavy, but let's just be easy because I don't know. I don't like to overcomplicate things. You see this wick, these two wicks gapped up here. So when I sat down and looked at this, it goes 1, 2, 3. And in the way these boxes are set up, it's, yeah, without changing your coordinates there, I could see it goes 1, 2, 3. There's about 3 solid boxes worth of a wick that went up before it was met with some resistance. Now it did hit there, but for sake of conversation, what I did was I counted 1, 2, 3, and then I gave it some more room. I think we were up there at the time. So I just let it imagine that a similar gap up happens, like 1, 2, 3. These bars fill the 3. It's just like something patterns you'll notice is like when there's this gap, they always gap up by a similar amount. Look at that down here, 1, 2, 3. I kind of see that full wick there, and then until it's met with some resistance back down. So that's kind of how I pick a range when you're going into new all-time highs. Obviously it gets messy because they're shit coins. The Mao Tai, everyone's been digging on that. I think it's been doing some interesting price movements, but yeah. So I had this, yeah, it's fine with me. I had this range going through here for a while, and before this was up, we just kind of had that similar thought of seeing certain gap ups, measuring the gap ups, and then seeing your consolidation zone and then mapping that out. And I was off, you know, it went up to 13, but I just set it there and let it ran through the fees, and then when it come out here, you come back to it and just offload, or I could just sell the Mao Tai if I continue to think it's gonna dip. But yeah, you just earn the fees there throughout all of that, which was pretty good. Because when you look at it, what are they doing? Yeah, it was like, you know, I think it was like on the larger days, it's 1% to 0.5%. But when you leave that for a couple days on your capital, you know, these are the lower edges. 0.5 to 1% seems to be usual. That's common on a decent slow day. That's what you're probably going to get. But for trading, I mean, you see some other trades, if you kind of force the trade to happen, sometimes I find that I might be actually down a bit more than what I could be making elsewhere. It's hard to always try and see that range, but you can definitely kind of sniff it out, see where people are likely to sell, and go from there. One that I'm scouting right now for entry would be Tensor. Doesn't look very bullish at all. And if we're being honest, I think I sold around up here. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Pixar didn't happen, I guess. Definitely jumped off the ship there. Let it go down a bit. I don't know where it's gonna end. Because I thought it was gonna be around here for that, but it just kind of kept on dipping. It's kind of looking up for where this could go, but it's kind of already mapping you out some points where it could bounce up and create a range from. So this would be a fun zone to do if I buy in. But obviously, if I want to start messing with this range, you want to make sure that it has a lot of volume going on it too. Or sorry, it's not volume. The 24-hour volumes, like you want to see that pretty damn high. The lower, and now it gets more degenerate with lower TVL, but you'll get more because there's not enough people providing liquidity, so your liquidity is going to be used a lot more. You'll get more fees that way. So the volume and TVL, that ratio, definitely is going to lead you to some clues to how the pools could be performing. And when you open it up, you can see their top performing pools, and a lot of them lately you'll see that, oh look, there's 84K doing 2.2 million, and there's a compared to other ones that are maybe double it. That's doing similar volume. Yeah, so that's correlated a bit. And sometimes you see that the DLM's just outperforming the other ones, but this might be, these three are pretty even in what they're earning, it looks like. That's nothing too fun yet, but I'm watching that, and if I could get some good spot on tensor and then it shoots up a bit and then you see it get range bound, that's when liquidity is really fun. It's a couple step sequence because you buy low, the asset gains value, now you have a higher TVL. Your higher TVL is going to generate more fees, and you have less of a chance of losing money because you're already gained up from that spot. But now you're just, it's like a bonus to me. It's like the fees is kind of earning a little extra on top. But you do open yourself up to some bottom. But with this, you don't need to do what I mentioned before when I did the pups one or something. And I wanted a good entry right now. It would be like if you're trying to do this shitcoin. I think this says something about, you know, there's people chatting about it. So of course you gotta throw it open. Let's see, it's 1%. That if you wanted a good entry, you don't have any of it. So when you kind of just do the bid ask, you take off the autofill, just go to USDC, type that in, then you can send it. Now this little diagram shows you how big the bins, and like you've selected this bin setup, and this shows you what everyone else's bin setup looks like, and you can see everyone else has tightened up their bin like this. This is another good thing to see. So you can see where there's empty bins where no one is really filling. And of course, if this price was around these zones and you were here, your stuff's always going to be getting hit too. But you could also see where there's some, maybe a lot of other people are making their bins at too. So if you could kind of not copy people, but you know, see what other people are doing, and it's kind of a reflection of what this bin setup is looking like. It's just a little more information for you to dive into. But yeah, as that goes down, you could just literally, if it goes all the way down, comes back up, or bounces down between, what is that, 64, I guess, sorry, I should have pulled that up. Yeah, so this one would be bouncing between where we're at now at the 60 down to like 41.6. So it's, yeah, it's right around there. 40.10. Oh, actually. Oh, I see what happened there. Yeah, 40.10. So yeah, this pool goes all the way down to 40.10. So if the price falls down, you'll be making fees, and if the price goes back up and just keeps shooting up, what's cool is that you'll end up with the fees earned, and then you'll kind of DCA'd some pups without even buying any, for example. That's just one way to kind of make a little extra. You're gonna have to start doing stuff. It's gonna be boring if you're doing it with $100. It's something that gets a little bit more interesting when you're doing 1,000 up on these, just because you know 35% on 100 is really cool, but you know 1,000 or 10,000, it gets a little better. That's why a lot of these things end up being it doesn't have to be a whale activity, but you could see that this is really cool because you don't have to be a whale to do this hyper focused liquidity, but you're gonna have to do a little bit more work rebalancing, kind of on that example we used here. You could get a lot more by consolidating and getting putting your assets on more integers that are tightly bound to get hit more often. Whereas otherwise you could get less fees but less maintenance by spreading it out, but your bins will be sold at a much different rate. So that's the biggest thing when you're looking at all that. I don't know if there's, since we're pretty deep into the DLMMs, is there any questions on it or weird things that you've run into? Or
can you change the range, or do you have to work with the range that the pool is doing?
Yeah, so there's a bin step, and that's the length that they preset for you. And then so there's a bin step. It took me a while to figure this out. So there's bin steps, which is your range, and then the number of bins is the integers of which your assets are being sold in. So I'd assume, since you can only see like 33 here, or 34 or something. Is that the halfway zone, I think? Yeah. And then all 69 bins is when you fan it all the way out there. Yeah, I wish you could have a little bit more on that or something else, but it just seems to be the confines of the setup.
I tried the Van Solana DLMM pool, and I don't know. I don't think I made money there.
Yeah.
I sold basically my Van into Sol. I rearranged it several times, but it's always sold my Van, and I honestly didn't wanted to sell all my Van. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
I'm using the normal pools in there. It's not so crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're using the DLMs, especially on like the WEN or Sol, it's good to see if there's a lot of volume, like that 5.5 or look at that 1.4. If it's above 1%, you're getting my attention a lot more. Of course, the higher percents could be a bit more volatile, but I think that's kind of why what you mentioned there is like, oh, I don't want to sell of my Kira or my WEN or something. I personally don't like using my my moon bag stuff for this in hopes that I earn a little bit extra fees. I kind of go into it as this mindset of I'm trying to DCA out of something. So I enter in with that USDC or Sol, and then I kind of mark down what I buy and at what level and the number of both assets. And then I can kind of track if I'm getting more Kira, because the hard thing with Kira too was that the price went down, so it's hard to track total value. I'm up Kira, but the value of Kira is down a bit. So my TVL looks like I lost money, but I'm bullish on Kira, so I'm still up like a bunch of Kira, which is great. It's why it's good to measure what amounts you're getting, because when you're getting more Kira or when the price is going down. So that's when it gets really hard to read, because people are selling you Kira and you're trading them USDC and you're taking a fee of Kira. So when it goes down 10%, it just looks like, oh man, I lost 10%. But you're actually kind of gaining in some of the bag. That's why I'm trying to figure out how to use my fees a little bit better. Like, do I re-inject my fees? I kind of been trying to pay myself back with the fees in a way. So the principle I started with, I kind of multiply that principle by gaining fees out of it. And out of Kira, when I started it, I think we kind of announced we were going to be getting into them. Since then I made, was that 30% of what I put in during the past week or so. I think it was, yeah, or week or so, yeah. So it is good, but again, the Kira price. So when I looked at my value, it was definitely down a bit. Let's see. Let's say I was at 25 cents when I was doing a bunch of this. I'll say around 25. So yeah, where we're at now, kind of dipped 35. Yeah, 35%. So that's why it looked like I gained 30% of assets, but the price is down, but my total value is the same. That's what's really cool. So we're down 30%, but the fees over that couple weeks mitigated that loss. But when the price goes back up, we'll have hopefully, you know, a bit more Kira and assets to go. So it'll even be higher once we reach 25 again. That's what's cool. And that's, again, when hold on to that thought, is why I kept this pool open. I didn't rebalance it. I left this open because I'm not done with the idea that Kira could come back here. Like, this pool is all Kira now and just waiting for it to come back up to this zone. But instead I made a new one, and it looks like we're touching the bottom of this pool now. So can reconsider that one. This one's kind of moving around, but I don't want to immediately keep chasing the pool. If Kira dips from here, I need to be aware that of where it could be consolidating next, and I hope that's why I made this line here. Is that I'm thinking it's here. I probably should have pumped it down a little bit more, but hopefully now, you know, it's gonna bounce around here, maybe come back up. That'd be great. But you know, it could do that 11. You're always looking at the 10. But hopefully it holds around this zone. So I won't, if it breaks this, I probably would wait to get back in around this zone if it did do that. And if it did do that, I might consider moving this down a bit. But if okay, that's another thing. I can remove my liquidity from these bins, and then set up another bin with that liquidity. And then these bins would be empty, but I still have that range. So in theory, I could go back up to this bin and refill it because I didn't delete it. So that kind of where I maybe couldn't have this high of a ceiling, but because I've already made those bins and they're already set, I can refill them later. That's kind of a different tip, or maybe a thing to think about. Because you rent, you give them a little bit of soul to make those bins, and then when you remove liquidity and destroy that bin setup, you get your soul back. But if you don't, you just take your liquidity, you leave the soul, and the bins are still set up. So it could hit that range again, and you could chase that. I could rebalance it down here, and if Kira's getting really bullish again, I can maybe front run it, try to refill my pool up here, and then catch that upside and range through here again. But that's just a good example of, I wouldn't just rebalance all the time. You kind of have to think of kind of get into spot trading mindset when something's not going the right way, you need to recalibrate a range, kind of see where is it going to be ranging next. So maybe I wouldn't jump in immediately, but see if it starts getting some resistance, and then that's when we can kind of show you, it's kind of showing you a range, and then I build off of that.
Hey, this is super helpful. Thank you for
Oh,
doing this.
oh, no problem. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but there's just so many ways to that. It's like I won't say open source or something, but it's so Rinder, so Rinder, so Rinder, baby.
It's a mouthful. What's happening, Dregz? Yo,
Yeah.
I fucking thought that the stream was at 7 for some reason today. So I hopped in a little late, but
Nice, but you made it. Hell yeah, dude.
fashionably late, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oof.
We buying the dip. No, I'm actually converting my mobile token over to Kira.
Nice.
NFA.
Yeah, I mean, Kira's done a sweet little dip all around, but eesh, let's see. You think she's gonna catch there at 14 or dip back to 10? That's the
You know, I'm cool with both. I'll just DCA.
damn right.